All right, boys and girls, Benjamin Bok Choy here with a 2026 Monaco Grand Prix race review. Now, generally I just do an Alex Albon Superfan show because he's my favorite driver, but I think this race was good enough today to kind of give a little bit of a longer review. Now, right off the bat, congratulations to Kimi Antonelli, 5 races in a row for a teenager in his second year. That's crazy, giving us some memories of Max Verstappen coming into Red Bull, and I don't think even Max Verstappen had this much success in his second year. And they were both pretty similar ages. I know Verstappen was like, I think, a year or two younger than Antonelli at this point in his career. But very good race from Kimi Antonelli. A lot of very messy race today. A lot of penalties handed out, a couple of incidents on track, and then even after the race, there was some uncertainty as to whether or not some of these penalties were going to stick. But the race from Antonelli was pretty impressive. Lewis Hamilton P2, Isaac Hadjar in P3. That was kind of also up in the air towards the end of the race because of what happened during the red flag session. So if you don't know what happened to Hadjar, Red Bull had started to work on his car. They hadn't made any changes yet, but I think they were informed they couldn't touch, or they started touching the car, but they hadn't made any changes yet. So they were noted for red flag infraction. But then after the race, since they didn't make any changes to the car, the penalty, well, what would have been a penalty was kind of lifted. So Hadjar finished P3. Gutting day for Pierre Gasly, who did finish P3 on track, but because of a couple of speeding in the pit lane penalties, which quite a few drivers had, he was demoted all the way down to P7. So it was Antonelli, Hamilton, Hadjar on the podium. Then we have Piastri and the two V-Carbs, Lawson and Lindblad, both having amazing races today. Gasly P7, Alex Albon P8 there. I think he could have done better than that, but we'll get to that in a second. Esteban Ocon promoted after a couple of penalties. Fernando Alonso also promoted after a couple of penalties for the first point for Aston Martin this year. So kind of a crazy race overall. Max Verstappen DNFing right at the beginning of the race. And then you had Lando Norris also DNFing, I think about halfway through the race as well, and then a couple of crashes on track. You had Ollie Behrman, Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas. I don't think Valtteri Bottas had any incidents. I think he just kind of had some issues in the car or something like that. Leclerc crashing out, causing the red flag. I know a lot of the commentators were talking about the track during the race, but Leclerc just said it was a braking issue. It's been an issue that they've had for a couple of races now. And then Carlos Sainz obviously being crashed into by first Hülkenberg, and then Colapinto, which saw him out of the race as well. So quite unfortunate for Williams. Could have had 2 cars in the points today. P8 and P9 would have been very good points, 6 points overall. So some ups and downs, and some teams having very good days and other teams having very bad days. So let's get to Alex. Now, I think Alex could have probably finished P7 on track. I don't know if he would have been able to get within that 10-second mark to get past Gasly. But I got a little bit of issue with Alex and how he was driving today, right? So he was on to score. I think he was sitting P10, and then when Norris went out, he got promoted up to P9, Sainz to P10. Sainz was able to hold back the grid to allow Alex to get a free pit stop. And then afterwards, Williams informed Alex to swap positions and hold the pack back. And Alex gave him a lot of lip on the radio there, which was kind of confusing to me. Like, Alex seemed like he wasn't sure what was going on, and it seemed pretty simple and self-explanatory to me, you know. Sainz held back the pack, gave you a free pit stop. Now it's your turn to hold back the pack and give Sainz a free pit stop. I don't understand what was so hard to understand about that. And not only that, but he allowed Lindblad to get past him. Lindblad on really, really old medium tires, and Alex just out of the pits on fresh softs. He first goes off at the chicane, having to go through the chicane and then having to slow down so he didn't get an advantage. And then at the final corner, he had a very terrible exit and allowed Lindblad to properly overtake him on track at Monaco. So I think Alex could have finished P7, maybe as high as P6, but that was kind of his own fault there, not being able to hold back Lindblad on really old medium tires when he had fresh softs there, and then kind of giving them a little bit of mouth on the radio. Not really sure why. I feel like Sainz has done on quite a few occasions, Sainz has helped Alex either pit early without any issues, like last year's Monaco Grand Prix, or like at Jeddah last year, where he allowed Albon to sit in his DRS, even though Sainz probably would have been able to gap Alex and then, and prevent, I believe it was Hadjar behind him from overtaking. So I feel like Sainz has done, on a few occasions, has helped Alex out. And the one time they asked Alex here to help Sainz, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just frustration because of the season that he's had so far. But it kind of upset me a little bit to hear Albon complaining on the radio when they asked him to hold back the pack. And then again, like I said, I don't know how you let Lindblad buy you on much older tires. And it kind of came back to bite them in the ass, because Lindblad was able to change his tires during the red flag and was able to stay ahead of the Williams there. So I think Alex, he could have came home in P6, and if he's upset, I think he's got nobody to blame but himself. And I am a huge Alex Albon fan. I am probably the biggest Alex Albon fan in the world, but I don't like to make biased remarks on what happened during the race and stuff like that. I think this is all on him. He could have came home with 8 points today, and he came home with 4. Still a pretty decent haul for Williams, considering he's only had 1 point this season so far. But I don't know, it was quite unfortunate. Another person that I don't really care for right now, George Russell. A lot of complaining on the radio after the race, a lot of kind of deflecting a lot of the blame. He didn't have a great qualifying, he didn't have a great race. Some of the issues weren't really his fault. I don't know about the speeding in the pit lane thing. It seems like quite a few drivers had some issues there, so I don't know if that was on George or not. And then obviously the team telling him to stay out, and I don't know if maybe there was some miscommunication on the radio, and then he came in, and then they couldn't serve the penalty properly. So I don't think it was all his fault, but not taking any of the blame during the race or after the race there, I think is very unbecoming of a driver. It seems like he's been doing that quite a bit recently as well. So, and I know it doesn't make him feel any better seeing his 19-year-old teammate winning Monaco and then 5 races in a row. I don't think Russell's had a good start to the year, but not taking some of the not shouldering some of that blame, I think is causing a lot of fans to not really care for George this season. Very unfortunate for Max. I was really looking forward to that battle between Max and Antonelli. I think if anybody was going to be able to give him a challenge, it was obviously going to be Max, but then his engine, I think, just blew up at the beginning of the race. I don't think it completely blew up, but obviously he had no power for that lap, and then Red Bull just told him to come into the pits, and they DNF'd right after that first lap. So that was quite unfortunate. Isaac Hadjar, also another impressive race, having a lot of engine issues during the race. I don't believe he was getting full power from his battery, and no matter what Red Bull tried to do, they could not fix the issue. I don't know how he held on to P3 there. Obviously Gasly's penalty helped out there, but he was still able to get ahead and stay ahead of Russell after Russell beat him out of the pit lane after their first pit stop. So congratulations to Hadjar. Very good race. Piastri kind of had a quiet race. I don't think anybody really thought he was going to be able to do much in his McLaren. Norris also had some issues early on, and he also had to retire. So McLaren's had a very quiet day today. I think they probably would have finished P4 and P5 anyway, so it wouldn't have been a great race for either driver there. Still very good points for McLaren. Liam Lawson had a heck of a race as well. I know he made it to Q3, and obviously he benefited from a lot of cars DNFing, but still, you gotta get into that position to be able to take advantage of the DNFs, right? So he had a very good Saturday, which allowed him to have an even better Sunday. Arvid Lindblad, they took a gamble with the pit stop. Obviously, after I think there were 2 safety cars where they decided not to pit Lindblad, and at that point he was sitting P8, and he still didn't have he still hadn't had his pit stop yet. So if he had pitted after the second safety car, he would have still came out in last, and it wouldn't have helped him anyway. So for them to take that gamble and hold on for later in the race for that red flag ultimately helped him out. Very good race for Lindblad. I think he was already making up quite a few positions before the pit stops anyway. So again, he benefited from the red flag, but he had to put himself in that position to take advantage of it. Pierre Gasly, like I said, did finish on the podium. 2 speeding in the pit lane penalties there. I think they've challenged it at the end of the race, and at this point I don't believe they've reviewed it completely yet. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. And then P8, Alex Albon, I already went through that whole spiel there. So admittedly, Ocon and Alonso, I didn't really follow their races that much because they were so far behind, and they didn't really get back into the race until the red flag. And Hulkenberg hitting Sainz, Pinto also hitting Sainz when the red flag restart came on, gave them both penalties that dropped them down to P13 and P14, but Ocon and Alonso benefited from that. Bortoleto, I think, probably should have finished in the points, but he had a very poor qualifying. I think he crashed out, right? Bortoleto did crash out of Q1. Yes, he did, because he got into Q2 but didn't run into Q2. So I think the Audis had the pace, because at the end of the race, Hulkenberg looked quick behind Albon there. And I think if Bortoleto had a better qualifying, I think both Bortoleto and Hulkenberg probably could have finished in the points. And that's pretty much it. Russell, Hulkenberg, Pinto, Perez all had penalties that dropped them well outside the points. Sainz, Leclerc, Stroll, Norris, Bierman, Bottas, and Verstappen obviously did not finish the race. So very good day for Kimi Antonelli. Very bad day for his teammate George Russell. V-Carb had a very good day as well. Hamilton finally getting back to where he was finishing a few years back, and performing much better than Charles Leclerc, who usually runs pretty well around Monaco. Well, actually, no, I should take that back. He's either having a really good day or a really bad day. But even on the days where he's having a really bad day, he still looks quick on track until he, makes a mistake or whatever. Leclerc hit that patch of asphalt, that was the part of the road that was starting to break up. But after the race, he said that it really had nothing to do with it. It's just he went to go and hit the brakes and just got nothing on the brakes. So apparently it's been a known issue within Ferrari for the last couple of races. So he doesn't blame the road breaking apart. He blames himself, which I wish I would see more from somebody like George Russell, who always seems to be deflecting a lot of the blame. But anyway, very good Monaco Grand Prix. And I was at work, so I didn't get to watch most of it. But fortunately, since the red flag came on and delayed the ending of the race, I did manage to see the end of the race. So I got to see some of the more interesting parts of the race and missed out on some of the less interesting parts. But very good race today. Probably the best Monaco race I've seen in like 8 or 9 years. And as an Alex Albon fan, it's good to see him finally getting into the points. He had a very good qualifying, was actually legit faster than Sainz, even though it wasn't by much. And he missed out on Q3 by, I think it was just 2.5 hundredths of a second, 0.025 seconds behind the driver in P10. I can't remember who was in P10. Was that Lawson? That finished P10 in Q2. I'm not sure. But I think, a decent lap would have saw him into Q3. He banged the wall in the swimming pool section, and I think that did cost him a little bit more than 0.025 seconds. So I think, without that mistake, he probably would have made it into Q3. Probably still would have only qualified P10 in Q3, but every spot counts when you're talking about Monaco. So yeah, very good day for Alex. I think he probably could have finished P6. I want to see less complaining on the radio from him. Seems like he's been doing that a little bit more lately, which I don't like to see. But I'm still happy with 4 points. And, it doesn't really move Williams up in the constructor standings, but at least Alex is he on par with Sainz now? Let's take a look real quick. No. Albon's got 5 points and Sainz has got 6. And realistically, Sainz probably should be on 8 points at this point. Although Albon could have been on 9 points too as well. So a lot of would have, could have, should have, but I still think very solid weekend for Williams and for Alex and Sainz. It wasn't his fault that he got knocked out of the race there. So all right, so that is my Monaco Grand Prix review and the Alex Albon Superfan Show all into one. Let me know what you guys thought of the Grand Prix and anything else that happened during the race, and I will see you guys in the next one.